Hey guys, welcome back to Full Circle with Joyce. Time now for our next segment, and my guest is here in studio. His name is Josh Kisamwa, and he's a passionate filmmaker and director of a movie or film called Rehema. Karibu sana to the show.
Thank you.
Great to have you here. And before we go any further, let's take a look at a trailer of Rehema.
Those things that are done there are done in secret.
Bibi yetu sio kusoma. Msomo wao ni mali ya mzee ndio anaangalia.
Kuwa na role model, hawajaona masomo yanaleta nini faida gani.
Sheria zipo, lakini kutimizwa, kutekelezwa zile sheria ndio imekuwa tatizo kubwa.
Wanarudika wasichana hao ni wanaume tu, wanawekea tu wanaume, hajui watoto ako kitu anafanya. Sasa Kenya mimi nataka watoto wangu wasome. Kuna watoto wengi nimeona wanadhulumiwa. Nikajitoa tu mwenyewe nikasema hata pia wale watoto ni kama ile yangu. Siwezi kuacha, nimeamua nisaidie watoto.
That there is a trailer of this film Rehema, which is directed by my guest here in studio. Once again, his name is Josh Kisamwa. And maybe you can tell us a little bit about sort of the context of the story and the inspiration behind you shooting it as well. Obviously, we can see it has something to do with children and early marriage, even abuse.
Yeah. So I found out about a really large area in the south coast, which is like right next to the Tanzanian border, where there's a lot, it's rampant, like just child abuse, gender abuse, kids getting married really early.
How young are we talking about?
Sorry?
How young are we talking about?
Oh, we're talking about 6, 7.
For marriage?
For marriage, yeah. And in my mind, I was like, I have a 5-year-old, I have a 3-year-old, both are girls, lovely girls. And I was thinking, I mean, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, these kids being married off. And that's what really pissed me off, to be honest. And I had just come from meeting a girl who was like 7, and she was married to like a 40-year-old.
That's insane.
And the lady that saved her got her with this in a really bad situation. So I started following up, and then we sort of became friends. I found out that this lady basically had been married to her brother after her husband died, and then sort of become an outcast in that community. And so the community or her in-laws wanted her to sell off her daughter. And that's what got her started in this mission to save kids. She's not paid. She's not, on any sort of salary. She just does it, to help people.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this story unfolds it's called Mwereni.
Yeah.
Which is a little known village near the border of Kenya and Tanzania.
Yeah.
Very small population, everybody living, just a few kilometers away from each other.
So it's really interesting to see how people live there. There's just villages and villages, but it's an area that's very little known.
Yeah.
There's not enough law enforcement to cover the area because it's so huge.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that happen there. It's traditional. It's like people living in the 18th century sort of,
Right.
in terms of traditions and customs.
Okay.
So the movie, for me, it's not about it's not an expose on, oh, look at these horrible people.
Right.
It's more about there's a problem in this place, and how can we help this community?
Right.
So-
Especially because you're saying they sound so detached from
They are.
any sort of modern day
They are.
civilization, if you
Yeah.
will, or culture, modern day culture.
Yeah.
But I'm very curious about when you said like this is something that happens, 6-year-olds being married off to 40-year-olds.
Yes.
Does the community, is that also a tradition that has been there for a while, or is it now something that has become a norm? Like, do they not see any problems with it?
So exactly, that was the challenge when I was there, to sort of look somebody in the eye and try to understand why this is okay. But if you get to see there's a short right now as we work to a longer film that's on Sema Story on Facebook,
Okay.
which is the organization that gave me a grant to do the film. But anyway, back to what you were saying, it is a tradition that has been there from, way back. And so it's just perpetuation of something that was already there.
Sure.
And has not been addressed.
But where is government, policymakers, any of those? I imagine there's some sort of post somewhere, because it is illegal to marry off a child in this country.
It is. It's completely illegal. But then, like I said, it's very remote. It's very hard to get to. Like the first clip on that trailer is the area chief saying, it's a huge space. It's hard to know what's happening in a very secretive community. So you have to, so this is like one of those, for me, the project is trying to peel that layer and be like, okay, these people need help, these kids need help. What more can the government do?
Wow. So Rehema, and that's her real name?
Yes, that's her.
She's actually taking on these kids. How is she rescuing them?
So, as her name has sort of gone around now, because it started with her daughter, she made friends with the chief's office, the police station that's nearby. So people around know about her.
Okay.
And what will happen is sometimes other mothers will reach out to her and be like, okay, these people want to marry off my daughter, can you help? And then she'll have to find out where the child is and sort of liaise with the local enforcement and child officers as well. And then, she'll basically rally cops and tell them, okay, there's a case, can we go get this kid?
Wow.
And basically that's what happens.
Okay.
Yeah. And there are others like her, of course.
Okay. So is it like what sort of mission is this? Are we talking like some sort of secret, like, they kind of go in and just grab the child and leave with the authorities? Or do they then have to sort of negotiate with this community that is so closely held to their beliefs?
So and that's the tough thing. As we speak, she's not living in that community anymore.
Okay.
Her life was threatened.
Wow.
Not more than once while we were filming. And that's the thing. It's really hard because she's become an outcast. Other parents as well are scared to sort of betray their community. So it worsens the situation because it's so tricky and it's so hard to deal with, because you have to go write a statement, then you have to find a children's officer, give him the case, give him proof.
And already clearly that's
It's really hard to do. Yeah, it's hard to do. So when I asked this lady why is she doing this, and I think it's somewhere on there, she just said it's because I think about my child, and that's what keeps her going.
Wow.
Yeah.
But it's really frustrating at the same time. I'm not even sure I can watch your film.
It is.
I feel like I'll end up just bawling my eyes out and just, I don't know, being super frustrated.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy to me that we're in the same Kenya.
Yes.
Like, this is the same country where your kids are outside playing with their friends, and someone else is having to hide their kids in bushes so that they don't get married to a 40-year-old.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's unacceptable.
And actually, the pandemic, COVID has made the situation worse.
Absolutely. If we're
because kids
seeing
are
it
at
here
home.
in the cities, obviously, in a place like this one that has really, and it's great to have our cultures and hold on to things, but and I'm very proud to be African, but there are also things that we need to call out as just simply plain wrong.
Yeah.
Right? What are you hoping, to happen now with this short film? Who's your main audience? Who are you targeting with this? What's your hope?
You know what? We need as many eyes as possible to see this thing. I still need to sort of get funding to keep filming because I'm in DocuBox, and in conjunction with a group called Comic Relief from the UK, sort of jump-started me into getting this far. But there's so much more that has been happening and so much more that needs to be filmed. So the audience, honestly, is first Kenyans, because I think we're here. We can rally maybe each other, or maybe there's an organization somewhere that could do something about this, or could maybe focus their eyes on that side of the country. Because apparently it's not just that area.
Sure.
It's a really big problem in Kenya.
Yeah. What was that statistic you had at the beginning there? Kenya is number 20 and
It's
something.
like the 20th. Yeah, we're like number 20 in like child marriages or something.
That's ridiculous.
It is. It's horrible.
So have you like reached out to, you know, the authorities with this? I mean, considering the authorities are saying, oh, it's too far, but here you have like, you know, physical, visual evidence of this. Have you been able to reach out to them and get some sort of response?
So, okay, let me not talk about that here. But
Uh-oh.
I mean,
Okay.
I am in communication with the authorities there. But it's not one person, right? It's many individuals doing the same thing. So the people who have been, like, for example, some of the cases that I talk about in the film, those people were arrested.
Okay.
And that's why this lady's life right now is in jeopardy, and she's sort of like living in exile in, you know, far away from that area. But it hasn't stopped her, even though the last attempt on her life was like in December. Since then, she's still rescued like 5 or 6 children.
Wow.
So, and that's why she's not in that community anymore, because every time she goes and a kid is saved, whoever was, you know, involved has to go to jail.
So
Sometimes
how does she
including
survive?
the parents.
She's not within a community. I'm assuming she doesn't have
Yeah,
a
she
job.
doesn't.
How does she survive and take care of herself and these kids?
I ask her that all the time. I just don't know how she does it. She does some farming. She has maybe a couple of goats. But apart from that, she's not properly supported by any organization or anything like that.
But that's why I'm very curious about whichever authorities or bodies would be at play. It's one thing to arrest the people, but I think beyond that, what other policies, you know, should be in place in communities like these ones?
That's exactly why I'm making this film. It's
Yeah.
like, what can we do about this? What is being done about this? So even for me, at first it was just like, okay, kids are getting married. But then you start going in and it's you know, is there more we could do? Are we doing enough? So those are the type of questions or the sort of conversations I want to spark with this film.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
I know it's depressing.
It's very heavy.
It's
It's
very
very
heavy.
heavy. But as tough as it is to listen and to watch it, you're right. I think sometimes we live in a huge bubble,
Yes.
completely unaware of the sort of struggles that our fellow countrymen
Yes.
are going through. And it's honestly, this stuff it's embarrassing. It
It
really
is.
is embarrassing. It's such a shame. But how can people watch this short trailer? Of course, you're working on a longer version.
Yes.
I don't think I'll make it through that one.
Yeah.
But how can people watch this short
So
version?
if they go on Facebook, there's Sema Story, and the film is there, until tomorrow.
Okay.
But I think if you follow that page, you know, we're trying to see where we can screen this, maybe even get it on TV, stuff like that.
Right.
As we work on, you know, the longer version of the same story. Yeah.
Wow. How long is the short one?
The short is about 14 minutes right now.
Okay.
14 minutes and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's honestly, it's a glimpse into that world. But there's so much more that will be in the longer version. But this
Right.
it's really, I don't know, it's it's really hard to, you know, at first I thought maybe it's the men of this community that are just animals, but then you find that even as a woman, if you went through it, and you think it's okay, then you don't mind it happening to somebody,
Yeah.
you know, like your
But
daughter. It's like,
I think part of the problem is we live in this very patriarchal society. I mean, the fact that in this Kenya, we still have not passed a 2/3 gender rule, we've not implemented
Yes.
it, is a huge problem.
Yeah.
So something as sort of direct and constitutional as that, it makes you scared, like to think, is this even going to be a priority?
Yes, it is. It's a problem.
Good
And
Lord.
even, like for me, like for example, as much as as learned as maybe as some of us Nairobi men think we are,
Yeah.
sometimes we're not faced with this. We don't grasp
The reality.
the reality.
Yeah.
And I'm ashamed to say, even for me, I mean, I grew up with one brother, and it was just basically just testosterone in that house. Having these little girls has sort of made me more aware
Right. Of
on
the
how sensitive I
challenges.
have to be, on the opportunity.
Gender inequality,
Exactly.
gender
And
justice.
it's sad for me to say that it
Absolutely.
took that.
Yeah.
You know, not even my marriage. It took my daughters for me to be like, okay, you know
There's a
what?
problem.
How about these kids?
Wow.
Yeah.
Josh, I want to thank you for coming today. I need to read some final SMSs here as I wrap up this segment. Someone says, good morning, Joyce and Josh. The movie is teaching us a lesson, but at the same time, it's hurting to see young children getting married to old people. Lady Rose Wanjiku from Embakasi East says, the same goes in our country. The government has to do something about these early marriages. And she says she loves the movie, at least from what she's seen so far. Thank you so much, Josh,
Thank
for
you.
coming onto the show. A very heavy but necessary conversation.
Yeah.
I think we need a break. At least I certainly do at this point. And when we get back, we'll be talking about co-parenting. So hopefully you guys are doing that right. But we'll be back after this. 111 444 111 is the SMS line.